Yo, so you know the drill at this point. Let's see who we can piss off today by simply talking about the most well-respected tier lists in the Zenless Zone Zero community. We're here at Prydwen.gg, and we're also going to be taking a look at this CN tier list right here, which is very popular right now. Something I should mention though, both of these tier lists, as far as I know, are actually a little bit dated, and they are based on closed beta test 3, and not necessarily updated for the launch of the game. Now you might say, why does it need to be updated if things haven't necessarily changed? And that's true, but the longer we get to cook with these characters, the more intricacies and combinations and synergies we might find. But this is the best we can do for now. If things get updated, we'll do an updated video for it. So the first thing I wanted to take a look at here is, obviously, ice teams are incredibly strong right now. These are the only 3 ice characters in the game in the form of Ellen, Lycan, and Sokaku. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But these 3 characters are absolutely insane, and there are no other ice characters in the game right now. But they're all so darn strong. So ice is the strongest team that you can build right now as well, with the Ellen and with Lycan and with Sokaku. Fortunately for the ice team setup, they all fit their own role. You have Sokaku here, which is a crazy strong support. You have Lycan here, which is a stun-based character. He has debuffs as well. And you have Ellen, which is far and above the best DPS in the entire game right now, and it's not even close. I mean, I have to fully agree with Prydwen on this one. They have a tier 0.5, so be aware of that. The CN tier list doesn't have a 0.5, but this actually helps us kind of paint the picture of how much better Ellen is than everybody else right now. She literally is a full-blown tier above. There's a whole tier of a gap, bro. She's tier 0, and here's a tier 1, bro. She's straight up 2 tiers above. It's crazy, and it's true. She's insane. If you don't believe me, go play her in the character trial. You can go try her out on a very, very cracked team. She's incredibly strong, and she's super brain-dead easy to use. Now, Lycan is also very, very, easy to use in my opinion. He's more of a charge-based character. You want to, definitely charge with the guy. Now, he could, at, what is it? At M0, I believe it is. Yeah, at M0, he actually can just normally run his combos without necessarily having to charge, and it's still fine. He gets a lot more benefit off of his charges once you actually, get more, I guess, copies of the character to power him up a bit. But he's still very strong outside of that. And Sokaku is incredibly strong as well, and everybody gets a free copy of Sokaku. She's going to be given to us for free after we clear Chapter 2 of the main story. So, and she's also available on Ellen's banner as well. So it's a character that everybody should be able to get their hands on. We all get one for free, but you might even be able to power her up with extra copies just by pulling on Ellen's banner. So Ice team, incredibly cracked right now. And we also want to take a look here at the CN tier list here, which also showed us a bunch of different team setups you can have. And it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Because right now, the best team setups are actually full-blown elemental teams. I think in the future, we might start seeing things like faction bonuses for teams that might start becoming more relevant as we get more characters in the game. Some factions just aren't very filled out right now to make that more viable. But as it stands right now, elemental teams are the strongest variants you could have. So obviously, some of these characters will fit certain roles. Let's go ahead and talk about the lightning team, or sorry, the electric team right now with Grace. Because I think Grace is super duper good, and she's actually kind of a different style character, but she's actually super duper fun. Grace is what Billy wishes that he could be, because she has these abilities that are very fun and ranged, these range abilities, but she manages to still be a fun play style, even though some of her abilities are more ranged abilities, and she somewhat pushes away from the combat at times. I personally like being a more nuts to butts, in your face, balls to the walls, right up in your grill type of play style. But even I enjoy playing Grace, despite the fact that she likes to hang out a little bit further away sometimes during certain moments of combat. Billy is the same way, but he just isn't as fun for whatever reason, and it shows that he wasn't necessarily meant to be the strongest character in the game. He's given to us for free after all. Poor guy, just sitting down here at tier 3. Now, if you are running Grace, you obviously want to run the other best support in the game, which is Rena. Rena is incredibly strong right now. In fact, on the CN tier list, they're putting her at tier 0. Now, there is no tier 0.5, so just be aware of that, but if you want to, you can go play her in the character trials as well. All of the 5 stars in the game right now, you can go play every single one of them in the character trials. It's super easy to just go in and have a run with them, and it gives you enough play time to really test out the characters to find out if you like them. And Rina has a very, very interesting, like, floaty type of play style. It's the most unique movement in the game right now, and it's very, very, very fun. I thought it might be a little bit, like, weird, but it actually works perfectly with her type of play style. And she's a very, very strong electric type, like, kind of like minion style buffer. She puts out these little minions when she fights too. She's very, very cool, very, very fun, and she doesn't necessarily need to be on a team with an electric type player or a character to be very good. A lot of these characters at the top don't necessarily have to be with their element to be very good, and that's part of what keeps them up tier. Lycone, for example, Lycan, he's not necessarily on tier 0 just because he works well with Ellen. He just is that good. So let's go ahead and talk about another electric type character, which is Anby. Anby is a free-to-play character every single one of us get, and she can work as a stun-based character, but believe it or not, on the Grace team, she's not actually better than running Anton. Anton, believe it or not, is actually better than running Anby, which you might think is a little bit weird, because you usually want to have one DPS, one like stunner or like defensive type character, and then one support. But with this type of team, it's actually better to run Grace, Anton, and Rina here, because it just synergizes so dang well. And with a character like Grace, who sometimes put distance between you and the enemy, it's totally fine running them. And every time you use one of the swap skills with your team, you will swap and you'll get your character that you want that's a melee style character right up there in the action again. So you don't really have to ever worry about being distanced from the enemy when you're running Grace, because when you swap using like a swap skill or swap ability with Anton, he'll immediately swap and go right to the enemy, so you don't have to ever worry about something like that. And because the team is so strong, you don't necessarily need to run Anby as your combo stunner. So I just wanted to point that out. It's a very, very fun team, one of my favorite teams. In fact, when I was doing reruns or rerolls in this game, Grace is the character that I decided to stick with out of the 5 characters. I would have stuck with Rina if I got her, or maybe Lycan if I got him, but I got Grace first, and I fell in love with the playstyle. That's what I'm sticking with right now. I also have another account that has like I have M5 Zukaku, believe it or not. Crazy. On one reroll, dude. And it ended up getting Soldier 11. So let's talk about Soldier 11 and the fire team real quick. This character is getting so much hate right now. Like, it's not necessarily hate, but everybody doesn't seem to care if they get a Soldier 11. Like, if you roll into a Soldier 11, people tend to re-roll after they get that. But bro, have you tried her? She's actually very, very strong, and her basic attacks can pre-buff themselves. If you time out your basic attacks properly, they will turn into fire-buffed attacks. Now, and unfortunately, dude, they don't tell you what the timing is for it. The game literally says, if you time your basic attacks properly, you will get fire-buffed attacks with your basic attacks. Now, that's kind of weird that they don't tell you what the timing is, but if you play the character, you'll realize the timing while you play, and if you play the character enough, you'll just automatically start getting those fire-buffed attacks. Trust me, she's actually grown on me super duper hard, and I'm actually running 2 accounts right now because I haven't decided whether I stick with Grace or Soldier 11 because she's actually that good. Now, the reason why people probably don't like her is because her design seems a little bit uninspired, and her voice actress, in my opinion, just isn't quite hitting that hard. I don't know, personally, the character just isn't super cool, but the playstyle is actually really, really strong and very, very fun. Now, obviously, you have Kaleda here, another strong fire character. She's more of your stun type character. She works really, really well with Ben. She works so well with Ben that rather than run Soldier 11 and Kaleda and Lucy, you could actually just run Soldier 11, Kaleda, and Ben. Part of why is because they're from the same faction, and they actually have a combination ability. These two have a literal combination ability that only works with each other, and nobody else can use it. It's a very special ability because they're from the same faction, which is really, really cool. And because the combination is really, really strong, it's actually like as good or maybe even potentially better than running Lucy, despite the fact that Lucy is really, really good. Now, Kaleda, I just wanted to point out, is, in my opinion, not as worth as getting Soldier 11, but because you really do want to run her with Ben. But I just wanted to point out that she's also kind of a character that people don't necessarily get super excited about, but she's also very strong. Now, Lucy, let's talk about Lucy real quick. I think she's one of the few characters in the game that's going to get better over time. Because when you look at her kit, I can't deep dive her kit right here, right now. I can't deep dive literally every single character right now, but if you look at her kit, you can just tell that she's going to end up getting much better over time, and part of it is going to be with faction synergy, which she doesn't really get the opportunity to really do right now. So she'll get better over time. So will Nicole. Nicole is the only Ether character in the entire game right now, bro. She doesn't get to synergize with anybody right now. She's still really good. Like, in fact, the CN tier list put her at tier 1, and I agree with this. I don't think that she should be down here at tier 2 like Prydwen has. I think that she should be up here at tier 1, right? I think that she's actually very strong, and she's a free-to-play god, basically, because everybody can get her. So I think she's really, really good, and she's only going to get better over time. And I think the same thing will happen with Lucy. She's a really strong character. I actually wasn't sure if I liked her at first, but after actually playing her and getting used to her, she's actually really good. And like I said, her, Nicole, and Grace are going to get better over time, because Grace is the only anomaly character in the game right now. And I'm very interested to see where that goes. I'm very interested to see where Grace goes with the fact that she's an anomaly type of character, and she's the only one in the game like that right now. So let's move on to some other characters. We talked about all of these other ones right here. Let's go ahead and talk about Piper and the other like physical type characters right now. So unfortunately, physical just isn't really that powerful right now. When you look at like the best physical character is Nekomata. This is yet another character where I personally don't like the design of the character, but I think that the actual like play style is very strong and the character itself is very strong. It's just the physical design is not really my thing. I'm not really into lollies and stuff like that, and she just doesn't cut it for me, man. She's just not doing it, man. But she is very, very strong, and I have to admit that. But the other physical characters in the game are kind of not really hitting very hard right now. You have Billy, who even the CN side of things will agree is basically the worst character in the entire game right now. His playstyle is just kind of a little bit boring, and it's a little bit mid. And, you know, a character like Corrin right here, she, in my opinion, is a tier 2 as well. Just like we see here, she's a tier 3 on the Prydwen tier list. I have to disagree with this. I think that she deserves to be up here at tier 2. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the character's like crazy cracked or anything like that. I just think that she's a little bit lower on Prydwen's list than she should be personally. I think that maybe they just didn't play test her enough to find out that, like, she's a charge type character. She might not seem like a charge character to some, but bro, if you hold her charge and you stun the enemy before you charge them, with her, she actually does a lot of damage. But she's not necessarily the best type of character in the game, but she's at least a tier 2 in my opinion. And these, you have Piper here, who's also a charge type character as well. I personally like Corrin maybe more than Piper. Like, I don't know what it is. Piper just feels a little bit too slow for me. The playstyle doesn't feel as fun for me. That's just my personal opinion. I like Corrin a bit more, but you know, you guys got to do what you got to do, right? I think that Corrin's more fun to play than Piper personally. And Ben is kind of an interesting character, dude. Like, he has like some really, really strong defensive abilities, and like it's really, really hard to like die with this guy. Like, obviously you've never probably died with any character in the game. The game is really, really easy, but this guy is super duper strong. Like, he basically doesn't take damage. It's kind of crazy. Like, if you play him a certain way, he pretty much like doesn't even really take damage. And he has these crazy synergies that he can do with like characters like Kaleda. And if you just keep comboing in between these two, you can't really get hurt while they're in the middle of their combos. And it's a rare situation where you have these faction abilities between the two of them that work really, really well. Now, I don't think you should necessarily raise him up on the tier list just because like he has one strong synergy in the game right now. But, you know, it's definitely worth pointing out that his potential is pretty good for a 4-star character. Now, the best 4-star characters in the game right now are Sokaku and Lucy, and I think that Lucy should be bumped up here to tier 0.5, right? I think one of these characters should probably get bumped up to tier 0 on the Prydwen list. That's just my opinion. Maybe Sokaku, because she's part of the strongest team in the game right now. I think because of that, you should place her a little bit higher right now. If things change and ice teams don't become as strong, maybe you lower her down eventually. But I think based on the fact that she's like a character that everybody gets for free, so if you only get one more copy of her while pulling on the Ellen banner, I think that these things all factor in that she should probably get bumped up. Now, Rena on paper might be potentially better, but I don't know. I think one of these characters should get bumped up to tier 0, and I think Lucy should get bumped up to tier 0.5. And as you can see, the CN tier list agrees. They have her here at tier 0. Now, to be fair, there's no tier 0.5, so maybe Lucy wouldn't be quite as high if they did have one. But as you can see here, Prydwen doesn't even have her on the 0.5. Now, I have to agree more with the CN's tier list side of things right here. Personally, I think the CN tier list is top-notch right now. I don't disagree with a single thing on this tier list as it stands right now, and that's no hate to Prydwen whatsoever, okay? I wouldn't cover the Prydwen tier list if I didn't think that they held value, right? I think that they do hold value, I just think that they haven't cooked for long enough with some of these characters, or maybe they just haven't updated the tier list in recent times, because they haven't updated this tier list in a while. I think once they update this thing, they will see a lot of changes, and when they do, we'll probably cover this again. Anyways, if you found any of this helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.